No one should be forced to work the kind of hours I did. It's unsustainable and can be severely detrimental, both physically and mentally. The stress can manifest in painful ways, whether it's continuous exposure to loud industrial environments affecting your hearing, the nonstop problem-solving taxing your mind, or the emotional weight of high-stakes decisions affecting your heart. I only pushed myself to this extreme because I believed it was the only way to save Tesla when the company's survival was at immediate risk. In the tech and automotive industries, if you fall behind, even briefly, you can lose ground that's nearly impossible to regain. That pressure, and a genuine love for what I do, drove me to put in extraordinary hours, but it's not something I recommend as a lifestyle for anyone else. Early startup days, sleeping in the office. The ethos of relentless work dates back to my earliest ventures. My brother and I started our first company, Zip2, in the mid-1990s. We had limited capital, so we rented a tiny office rather than an apartment, and used a couch for a bed. That meant we essentially lived in our workspace. For showers, we depended on a local YMCA, where memberships were cheap. We only had one computer. By day, that machine hosted our website. By night, I would take it offline and write code. It was a constant 7 days a week grind fueled by optimism, youth, and an unshakable belief in the vision of web-based city guides and online business directories. Looking back, it's clear this approach demanded severe personal sacrifices, comfort, sleep, relationships. But we had little choice if we wanted the company to survive and eventually thrive. Personal sacrifices and relationships. During this period, I had a short-lived relationship, and even that was restricted by the demands of the startup. If my girlfriend wanted to see me, she often had to sleep in the office as well. It was far from romantic, but it reflected the reality of our situation. Every waking moment was spent building and maintaining the business. We learned early on that startups don't have strict boundaries between personal life and professional life. The lines blur, and the mission can take over everything else. Multiplying output through sheer effort. There's a straightforward arithmetic to working twice as many hours as everyone else. If your competitor works 50 hours a week and you consistently work 100, then in roughly 4 or 5 months, you'll accomplish what might take them a year. This kind of acceleration is tempting in industries where speed to market can make or break a company. However, such a schedule can lead to burnout, health issues, and frayed relationships if sustained too long. It's a strategic sprint, not a marathon, but sometimes during critical moments that sprint feels endless. The near-death of Tesla has faced multiple near-death scenarios, but one of the most infamous came during the Model 3 production ramp in 2017 to 2018. The company was scaling up manufacturing of an electric car intended for a broader market, and we encountered one challenge after another. Automation bottlenecks, supply chain disruptions, and a paint shop that needed significant updates. The financial losses were staggering. Tesla was bleeding money at a rate that threatened our very existence. At one point, we had only single-digit weeks of cash remaining. It was a moment where failing to solve these complex engineering and manufacturing problems would have sealed the company's fate. I stayed at the factory 7 days a week, often sleeping on a couch or directly on the production floor, ready to troubleshoot issues at any hour. If the paint shop needed an extra set of hands, I was there. If a bottleneck in body assembly appeared, I'd work side by side with the team until we fixed it. Balancing personal well-being and crisis management. Working 80 to 100-hour weeks puts immense strain on anyone, and it's important to address the mental and physical toll. I've asked myself more than once if the stress might cause me to implode. In crisis mode, it's easy to justify extraordinary hours as a necessary sacrifice. Over the long term, though, it's crucial to find strategies that preserve mental health. Leaning on capable teams, prioritizing the most critical tasks, and ensuring you're not fighting every fire alone. Surviving a crisis is one thing. Building a sustainable future beyond it is another. Building and joining great teams. No matter how many hours you work, a company's success ultimately comes down to the strength of its people. Companies are just collections of individuals working toward a shared goal. If you're creating or joining a startup, you need to prioritize gathering a core group of talented, dedicated, and collaborative people. One brilliant, tireless entrepreneur can only do so much alone. A cohesive, high-functioning team can move mountains, whether in software, aerospace, or automotive. First principles thinking. Another essential aspect of innovation is first principles thinking, a method that comes from physics. Instead of basing decisions on analogy or convention, i.e., this is how it's always been done, first principles break an issue down to the most basic truths and then reason upward. This helps you see what's possible rather than what's merely typical. It demands more mental energy, so it's not feasible for every decision. But when attempting something radically new, like commercial space travel or mass-produced electric vehicles, it can uncover solutions that a more conventional approach might miss. The realities of switching gears. Tesla and SpaceX. Splitting time between two companies, Tesla and SpaceX, means juggling multiple sets of challenges simultaneously. Typically, I might spend Monday at SpaceX in Los Angeles, then fly to the San Francisco Bay Area Monday night to work at Tesla on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then return to SpaceX Wednesday night to handle Thursday and Friday. Weekends often become overflow days, allocated to whichever company needs me more urgently. This schedule is far from ideal for personal well-being. However, showing up consistently and engaging directly with engineers and staff on the ground can make an outsized difference in problem solving. People tend to bring you issues more readily when you're physically present, and this immediate feedback loop can help resolve bottlenecks more efficiently. Embracing failure as part of innovation. SpaceX, in particular, embodies the idea that failure is a stepping stone to success. We experienced multiple rocket failures in the Falcon 1 program before finally achieving a successful orbital flight. Each failure was both emotionally and financially painful, but we treated each one as a learning opportunity, a puzzle to be solved. The same principle applied to early Tesla roadmaps, where battery technology, range issues, and manufacturing complexities all felt like insurmountable barriers at times. If you create an environment where team members are too afraid to fail, you'll never push boundaries. Ordinary people can choose to be extraordinary. It's a deeply held belief of mine that ordinary people can decide to accomplish extraordinary things. Conforming to what you were taught or what society expects might keep you comfortable, but it rarely drives humanity forward. If you're serious about changing something, be it transportation, energy production, or how we explore space, you may need to break from conventions and take risks that others consider unwise or too ambitious. Providing value, whether big or small. It's also important to realize you don't have to reinvent the wheel or revolutionize the planet to offer meaningful contributions. If you're providing a product or service that genuinely improves people's lives, even in a small, local way, that has real value. Large-scale change can be inspirational, but smaller scale, incremental progress also drives society forward. Balancing vision and pragmatism. Entrepreneurs often wrestle with the tension between holding a bold vision for the future and avoiding wishful thinking. It takes brutal honesty and meticulous self-assessment to determine if you're persistently pursuing a valid idea or clinging to a fantasy. This is one of the hardest skills to cultivate, knowing when to iterate and persist, and when to pivot or abandon a plan that simply won't work. The power of tenacity. No matter how good your team is, how innovative your approach, or how sound your first principles reasoning might be, without tenacity, you'll never reach your full potential. Working 80 to 100-hour weeks may not be a healthy norm, but in a high-stakes crisis or a competitive landscape, it can dramatically accelerate results. Success stories often emerge from teams and leaders who out-hustle and out-innovate the competition. The importance of a long-term vision. While you handle immediate fires and operational details, never lose sight of the overarching goal.